Non-alcoholic spirits brand Lyre's has been one of the major retail startup success stories of the last year, with its drinks now found in 30 countries. The company's just raised 16 million in a seed round, and co-founder Mark Livings is on Skype to share his plans for the cash. Welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining us. Before we get started, just tell us a bit about the company and why it's seeing such success. I mean, what do you think about it that's sort of driving the success?
Yeah, well, I'm Carl, by the way, because Mark's over in Europe and it's probably middle of the night for him. So, but thanks for having me on the show. Look, I think for Lyre's, one of the things that we sought to create was making it as simple as reaching for another bottle. And that was true whether it was a bartender in a bar or whether it was someone at home. And because we've made flavours that are so close to the original spirits with flavours that people know and love, I think we've been able to bring a lot of people very quickly into the category.
Carl, Simon, great to have you on the show. Sorry, I forgot that Mark was over in Europe and you shut down the borders to keep him away. But this has been astonishing. Do you look back over what you've achieved in 18 months and sort of kick yourself? Because 30 countries, the growth. I remember last year when we were chatting, I think you were aiming for about 16 by the end of the year. So you've doubled that. You've just done this $16 million raise. It's just absolutely boomed.
Yeah, look, I think we were very fortunate that prior to all the international borders being shut, Mark and I had actually spent a lot of time on the road. So we had forged relationships with a lot of relevant parties in these markets. Obviously, the big curveball that was not in the business plan was COVID and having a simultaneous shutdown of pretty much all the major bars and restaurants in the world. So I think that's what we were very fortunate also, that we had already planned to be very deeply set up with e-commerce and a digital first business from day one. So I think one of the things that helped us a lot this year was being able to quickly pivot from a focus on the on-trade to retail and e-commerce.
And direct to consumer, what, 400% monthly recurring revenue growth since January? I mean, that is huge. Is that sort of beyond any of your expectations?
Yeah, look, I think definitely above model, and every time we did a forecast, we just kept beating it. So I think we can safely say we won the internet.
Yeah.
But I think what we saw through COVID is there was really two macro groups of people starting to form, and there was sort of group A that equally you would have seen some of the data where alcohol sales have been up, and I think a bit of day drinking going on there. But group B, which I'm definitely a member of, where it's like all of a sudden you've taken travel out of the equation, people understand we're in a health pandemic, and there was just massive focus on wellness. So one of the things that I think made us very successful is we started offering free Zoom masterclasses to teach people, in many cases, people that have never made a cocktail before because they've always gone to a bar. So I think we just captured the migration of that spend. It didn't so much disappear, it just went from in a bar or restaurant to online during that. But I think even more exciting is not only has it stayed, and as everything started to open up around the world, people have been going into the bars saying, look, what have you got in the non-alcoholic section? And they're being quite vocal and demanding for choice.
We were talking about this a little bit earlier, especially with a group of women where sort of someone's pregnant and everyone else is hitting the espresso martinis and you're stuck there with soda waters.
Yeah.
How much of the psychology of drinking, but drinking a non-alcoholic drink, is such an important part of being in the group?
Yeah, well, I mean, this comes from my own experience, and one of the reasons we founded the company is doing a lot of businesses in places like London, where honestly every meeting after 4 o'clock is typically done at a pub, and a beer gets put in your hand, and all of a sudden you ask for a water and people say, well, why aren't you drinking?
Yeah.
I think if you start to think about this, it's a social artifact, and a non-alcoholic beverage allows people to still feel part of the tribe. And whatever your reason for not drinking, be it you're pregnant, breastfeeding, training for sport, or simply you just don't feel like it, it's all about giving people choice and the options. And what we've actually started to see with our product, it's not just no alcohol, it's also low alcohol. So take a drink like an espresso martini is a great example. It's a fairly boozy drink if you have it in its original recipe, but using our products, Of course, you've got one in front of you today, which is in a non-alcoholic format. But you could also potentially use, say, our coffee original and use some real vodka, and you could make a low proof, so you bring the alcohol content down if you might want to have perhaps just a little bit.
Oh, that's clever. Now, speaking of espresso martini, we've got Kelly in the studio with us. Let's take us through. Do you want to talk us through what's in an espresso martini? Because I'm thinking sort of, it sounds like a martini but with coffee in it. Is that what it is?
Come on, Simon, you're all over it.
And where's the olive?
Come on. Look, espresso martini is actually one of the most popular SKUs in Australia today. So, look, typically the base spirit does change recipe to recipe. Often you'd have a vodka. For ours, because we don't have a vodka, because a non-alcoholic vodka would basically just be water, we use our white cane, which is our take on a white rum. So typically it's a portion of our coffee original, which is our non-alcoholic coffee liqueur, our white cane, some real espresso, good quality coffee is an essential ingredient. And Kelly, what are we putting in there in terms of essence? Is that vanilla?
So, Kel, what essence did you put in there for this one?
I put vanilla syrup, so 7.
Bit of vanilla syrup.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep. That's our signature twist,
Yeah,
but
45,
there's
45
different ways
cold
to
brew,
make it.
15.
Now, I mean, this is the fascinating thing. You make 13 different non-alcoholic spirits, you know, from a whiskey to a gin to a rum to the coffee. You guys have got some plans. Can we sort of tease any of them out of you for what's ahead from the 16 million bucks at this point in time?
Yeah, well, you know, obviously for us, it's about making accessibility a big thing. We've had a lot of retail partners that have been asking about some RTDs, particularly with the Southern Summer coming out. So one of the things we do is obviously make sure we can give people the format that suits them as well.
All right. Now, Kelly's, I think, almost ready. Give it a shake. Bit of ice. A nice Marie Antoinette cocktail glass. And away you go.
Lovely.
This looks
Here
pretty...
we go.
See, and we can day drink because, of course, there's no alcohol in it.
Exactly.
We won't have Kylie on the D in our case. Mate, how was the raise? How much of a challenge was that through this period?
Look, I think the big challenge, we had originally intended to get this done by February, but alas, 2020 had other plans. And what we had to do was just soldier on. And I think what actually happened through that process is we just kept everyone that expressed interest in us just abreast of our results. And I think as they saw the results and the numbers just continuing to rise month on month in a very, very consistent format, obviously that is the trend line that investors love to see. And despite the challenges of the pandemic, we just powered through. So, you know, I won't lie, it was a lot of time and definitely a few curveballs along the way, but we're extremely happy with the investors that we have on the cap table. We think they bring a value beyond just their money, which is one of the things we've always looked for through the company's journey. And I guess there's that networked effect of being able to continue to support our global domination plans.
Simon's going to have a try. I'm just going to ask you though, in terms of demographics going forward, do you expect that it to change altogether, given the fact that COVID has brought this real health conscious vibe? Oh, there you go. He's loving it. Simon's loving it. He's probably going to be continuing going forward.
Safe to share though.
Yeah, I won't take a sip. But yeah, certainly. Do you see this demographic change, and do you see it taking hold for good?
Oh, absolutely, and I think it's intensifying. And look, there's a lot of similarities here. I mean, if you look at some of the analogues, you know, you look at plant-based meat. I mean, it's had a similar sort of compound growth. You look at non-dairy-based milks, and there's been some you know, mammoth news in that sector, and that's a material double-digit percentage of the overall dairy category. I think non-alcoholic is growing at a rate even greater than those examples I just gave you. So a lot of people that have come into the category, I think COVID, if anything, has accelerated it. They're staying and they're bringing others with us, because what we've seen is an enormous amount of advocacy for the brand. So as someone tries it and they go, wow, that tastes exactly like I expected an espresso martini to take like, they start to tell others, and there's this whole network effect that starts to happen. So all the things that they previously thought weren't possible, they're like, well, this changes the way they want to consume. And I think that's evidenced by just the sheer volume of on-trade listings that we're getting now.
It does taste exactly how it should, and I'm now ready to kick on for the rest of the afternoon. Carl Hartmann from Lyre, thank you very much. Kelly, thank you for coming in and making that fantastic cocktail. We raise a glass to Mark over in Europe. Congrats on the 16 million. Thanks for joining us on Startup Daily, mate.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Great story. And you know why it's called Lyres?
Oh no.
After the lyrebird, because they're a great mimic.
Ah.
Isn't that
That's
really
actually
clever too? It's
really,
a
really
great
clever.
Sydney company. And they're distilled down in Melbourne, so yeah.
And you're going to get the placebo impact of that for the rest of the day. So
Well,
you'll just be
hopefully.
kicking off at your desk over there.
I'm just going for the coffee. The buzz will be great.
Exactly.